welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Welcome to this Monday edition of Focal Point. Got a story here. This is amazing. But the country of France has admitted that it is impossible for them to raise taxes any higher than they already are. They have bled the French people as dry as they possibly can. It is impossible economically and socially and electorally and politically for them to raise taxes anymore. They've gone to the hilt. They finally realized what Margaret Thatcher said. The problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money, and France is running out. They have run out of other people's money. Their tax rates now is their total tax rate is 47% of their gross domestic product. 47% of their gross domestic product, their GDP, their economy. Now in America, our economy is about $17 trillion. That means that a tax burden, if it's parallel, would be $8 trillion. Now our tax burden is just astronomical as it is, but we're paying taxes to the tune of $2.7 trillion a year is what the government actually collects from us. If our tax rate was as high as it was in France, we would be paying 3 times what we're paying right now. So France has come to the end of what they can fleece their own people for. So just kind of interesting to see. I mean, you know, and we ought to be learning from France about. I mean, realistically, there's just a limit to how far you can push this. Now, one quick thing, I'll just take a minute to go through this. This is just sort of a palate cleanser for the day. You're aware of the hubbub over the Washington Redskins. It's racist and got to get rid of it. You got several liberal publications that will not even use the word Redskins when they do stories about the Redskins. Now, President Obama had the 1972 Miami Dolphins in the White House last week, and he was throwing the word Redskins around all over the place. So he apparently is as racist as they come, according to the left. Now, I came across a little piece. This is just kind of cute. Let's see. I'm not sure actually who wrote this piece. I found it on a website called the Morlock Revolt. But anyway, this guy goes through all of the teams in the NFL and shows how there is something drastically politically wrong with the nickname of every team in the NFL, and he suggests alternatives to these teams. Now, let's just begin with the AFC East. You have the New England Patriots. Patriots, are you kidding me? This is jingoistic. This is ugly, and it is the pro-Americanism that has destroyed America. This is a guy that holds a gun and shoots peaceful British people. Got to get rid of that. Can't have the New England Patriots. In fact, I've got a piece in the stack from Salon Magazine where a guy says, look, it's time to stop saying support the troops. I don't support the troops. I'm not going to say support the troops. That's a silly phrase. It's a silly thing for people to do. This patriotism business, all this patriotism business is lousy. We ought to be citizens of the world. I mean, that was the idea. We ought to be global citizens. None of this patriotism, none of this love of your own country. This is on Salon. So New England Patriots, that's got to go. That's jingoistic and too pro-American. Now you got the New York Jets. Well, that's environmentally, you can't have the Jets. I mean, these are gas guzzlers. I mean, the carbon footprint of jets is horrible. It's destroying the earth. It's destroying the planet. So New York Jets, that nickname has to go. Now, the Dolphins are a peaceful creature. Now, the Dolphins have no business being in a violent concussion-inducing sport like the NFL. So you got to get rid of the Dolphins as a mascot because it has no place in a violent game like football. Then you got the Buffalo Bills. Who were the Buffalo Bills named after? Buffalo Bill Cody. What did Buffalo Bill Cody do? How did he express his emotions? He used guns to do that. Guns are bad. Guns are evil. So Buffalo Bills have got to go. Now, Baltimore Ravens go to the AFC North. Baltimore Ravens, what's the problem with that? What color are ravens? They're black. This is a coded racist nickname. Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals are an endangered species, and we can't be using an endangered species to promote a violent sport like football. That's got to go. The Pittsburgh Steelers. This is labor. This is stuff that's used to make cars, and it increases global warming because of all the energy that has to be used to make steel. It's dirty. It's not clean. It is bad. Pittsburgh Steelers has to go. Then the Cleveland Browns. What, are you kidding me? That's racist all by itself. You got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, what's the problem with the Jacksonville Jaguars? Not everybody can own a Jaguar. This is all about affluence, wealth, and the 1%. It's not fair. Nobody needs to drive something as expensive as a Jaguar. It just reminds people that of all that they don't have, got to get rid of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, how about the Houston Texans? Well, we all know about Texas. We know that they stole all their land from the country of Mexico, from all of the innocent people they took it from. They got to get, can't have a team named after these land-grabbing racists. What about the San Diego Chargers? Well, I don't know where the name came from, but it sounds like something that has to do with electricity. Where does electricity come from? It comes from coal. Chargers have to go. Kansas City Chiefs, no different than the Washington Redskins. That's got to go. St. Louis Rams. I don't know where that nickname come from, but Ram is a violent word. Cannot have violent in the use of a team mascot. San Francisco 49ers. You think, what could be wrong with the 49ers? What did the 49ers mine? They mined gold. It reminds us that the United States is an earth-raping gold mining community. And gold is all about capitalism and greed, and not everybody can have gold, so the 49ers have got to go. The Atlanta Falcons, that's another blackbird. You kidding me? Coded racism. New Orleans Saints, religion is bad. We're supposed to be a secular society, so the Saints have got to go. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were people that took money from the rich that didn't deserve it and who probably got it from poor people, and then the Buccaneers gave it to people that did deserve it. So that's one we can keep. Buccaneers is fine. They were pirates. That's good. They took from the rich, kept some for themselves, gave some to the poor. They're okay. Then the Carolina Panthers. It's black. Again, coded racism. Minnesota Vikings. What about them? Well, they were rapists and pillagers. So we can't have the Minnesota Vikings. Chicago Bears, carnivore, eats meat. Can't be having that. Dallas Cowboys, what do the Cowboys do? They raise cattle. What are cattle used for? People eat them for beef. Beef is bad. So in other words, there's something wrong with everything, including all of the teams in the NFL. Anyway, number to call if you want to join the program today, 888-589-8840. Let's play some sound bites. We'll take this into the next segment from that have to do with Martin Luther King Jr. and the march on Washington yesterday in commemoration of this. Now, there was an employee, you might have read about this, there was an employee at the Department of Homeland Security who ran a racist website. In fact, one of the things he said on his website, we are going to have to kill a lot of whites. He's been with the Department of Homeland Security since 2009. What was the response of the Department of Homeland Security to somebody who was maintaining a blatantly racist website that called for violence against a group of people based entirely on their skin color? He is now getting a paid vacation. A paid vacation. Now, it says administrative leave, like he's being punished. He doesn't have to come to work, and he still gets paid. That is a paid vacation. Now, let's play clip number one. This is Reverend Al Sharpton yesterday on the Mall. And you heard Jeff in the audio open today play a little excerpt from this. I couldn't even include it in the rundown because he used words that we can't use on a family radio. And so rather than have to bleep out long phrases, I just decided to cut the clip from Al Sharpton, but he uses the B word referring to women, and he uses a word that's a short term, a slang term for prostitute. He is on the National Mall, on national TV, he's using this kind of language. But in this clip, he actually says something pretty good. Now, Medgar Evers, as you're aware, was a civil rights worker. He was lynched in the 1960s. He was killed. It was, of course, absolutely horrible. It was murder. And eventually his murderers were brought to justice, but it took a long time for that to happen. Here's Al Sharpton with a word to the black community.
We owe a debt to those that thought enough of you to put their lives on the line. We owe a debt to those that believed in us when we did not believe in ourselves. And we need to conduct ourselves in a way that respects that. Don't you ever think that men like Medgar Evers died to give you the right to be a hoodlum or to give you the right to be a thug. That is not what they gave their life about. We need to talk about how we address one another, how we respect one another. We need to teach our young folk, I don't care how much money they give you, don't disrespect your women.
So I rarely thought that I would get enthusiastic about something that Reverend Al said, but Reverend Al, I think, was right on the money. He said, look, we got a problem in our own community. We need to address it. We need to get after it. And so a strong word to black youth. Now, here's Martin Luther King III. This would be the son. I guess we'll have to save this. Well, we can play this clip. So this is what Martin Luther King III, this is Martin Luther King Jr.'s son. Martin Luther King, of course, gave the great I Have a Dream speech. Here's what his son said yesterday on Saturday.
Far too frequently, the color of one's skin remains a license to profile, to arrest, and to even murder with no regard for the content of one's character.
And he was talking there about the Trayvon Martin case. And again, you know, we know from that Trayvon Martin case that race had absolutely nothing to do with it. But those that are determined to stir up racial agitation and keep that alive, keep bringing that up as an example. Here, the son of Martin Luther King Jr. uses that as an example of his contention that in America, race is still a license to murder. And yet we know that race didn't have anything to do with that case. Zimmerman did not know what Trayvon Martin's race was. Had to be asked by the dispatcher, what race do you think he is? Says, I don't know. I think he's black, but he obviously wasn't motivated by Trayvon Martin's racism. But those that make a living out of race baiting keep dragging that back into play. Focal Point AFR Talk.